Hello, hope everybody is well. It's Erev Rosh Hashana morning now, about it's a little bit before 8 o'clock actually. And Erev Rosh Hashana we have a lot of slichos that we say in the morning, and then Shachris. And while it was still quiet, I wanted to just try, like I said earlier, to really just go through the Tefillos a little bit on Rosh Hashana. There's I've tried actually to record this already several times in different places and got interrupted and different things. I really hope I'm matzliach this time and able to upload this before Yontif. The nusach of the Shmona Esrei that we're going to be saying starting tonight, Mir Hashem, we're going to say it a lot of times over the coming week and a half. We've got Ma'ariv tonight, Ma'ariv Rosh Hashana, and then Shachris, Musaf and Mincha, so that's 4 times on the first day of Rosh Hashana, and then again Ma'ariv, Shachris, Musaf, Mincha on the second day of Rosh Hashana, and then on Yom Kippur we also have Ma'ariv, Shachris, Musaf, Mincha, and Ne'ilah. So we have 13 times now that we're going to be davening a particular nusach in the tefillah. So I think it behooves us to try to get some clarity into what it is that we're davening, what are we saying. Certain aspects of the Shmona Esrei changes from time to time, and if you include the Chazar Sashatz, then we're doubling it, except for the Ma'ariv times. So it would be good to be able to understand what it is that we're saying and know what it is that we're davening for, to try to have what we should be having in mind. So obviously, it's always a good idea to get a machzor with a good translation. Certainly the art scroll or anything like that has translation, has notes on the bottom that can give a person perspective. And for many years, that was the machzor that I used to try to give some sort of understanding, especially when a lot of words are difficult and hard to understand and concepts are difficult. But what I wanted to do was go through a piece from the Ramchal. The Ramchal wrote a piece called Maamar Hachochma Rosh Hashana, and it's a very small piece, and it really goes through the Tefillos of Rosh Hashana, which really are part. The first part is the Tefillos of Rosh Hashana and Yom Kippur, almost line by line, really explaining what it is that we're focusing on, what it is that the Tefillos are about. And through his explanation of the Tefillos, we come to a deeper understanding of what Rosh Hashana is about, and what the day is about, and what are we supposed to be focusing on, and what are we supposed to be thinking about. A lot of people, this time of year, we tend to get somewhat self-absorbed, and we're thinking about my parnasa for the coming year, and my hatzlacha, and this, and if we're more ruchdius minded, so then we're thinking about my averos and my tshuva, and what do I have to do to fix up myself? There certainly is a very important place for that focus. The person has to be self-centered in some degree, as we've spoken about many times in the past, when it comes to their spirituality. However, we have to also know that there's a broader picture, and there's a bigger story that's going on Rosh Hashana that's important to try to get a picture of. So I want to just dive right into this. If you're interested in seeing this, you could probably find this somewhere online. It's called Maamar Hachochma Rosh Hashana from the Ramchal. Could be it's up on a website somewhere or something. I'm going to be, like I said, he talks a lot about the nusach, about the words that are used in the tefillah. So I'm going to be going through just in terms of the pages, in terms of the art scroll machzor. There's just the machzor that I found at home. This the blue art scroll machzor. Okay, so let's see. The Ramchal is going to explain to us what the tefillos are about, and again, thereby we're going to get a deeper understanding about what Rosh Hashana is about and what we're about on this very important day. Okay, tefillos Rosh Hashana, the davening of Rosh Hashana. B'kedushas Hashem. So in Shmona Esrei, in the bracha of Kedushas Hashem, we start the bracha by saying Ata Kadosh V'Shimcha Kadosh V'Kedoshim Chol Yom Yahu Chasela. So then we stop over there, and then we continue. Now I just have to explain something which is a little bit of a complication, which I don't want to spend time on. Deserves a broader explanation. But the nusach that the Ramchal has over here is not our nusach. It's not even though the Ramchal was David nusach Ashkenaz, and he was actually about tefillah in Nusach Ashkenaz, and we'll speak in a few minutes about his actual machzor. That I spoke with somebody last week who actually saw the machzor that Ramchal davened from, which a person owns in Yerushalayim. In our Nusach we don't have what he's going to be referring to over here. The first thing, what we have similar to it is by Chazar Sashat, when we repeat the Shmona Esrei. So before we get to the section, if you would look in the art scroll, if you have the same art scroll that I have, you can look on page 332. the top word of the uvechein ulechos ale kedusha. It's similar to what the Ramchal has, but it's not exactly. I don't want to get into the issue with the nusach now. So just for argument's sake, let's assume that the nusach is the way that the Ramchal has it. And as far as our tefillos are concerned, so we'll when it picks up with our nusach, then we'll focus it. Okay. The kedushas hayom, the kedushas Hashem mosifin uvechein yiskadei shimcha. So this is the pasuk that we don't have. In other words, Ramchal says that there are 4 times that it says uvechein. Right, we have in our nusach, again going to the article on page 64, we uvechein tein pachtacha, uvechein tein kavod, and uvechein tzadikim. Right, so we have 3 times uvechein. So in the Ramchal's nusach there was a 4th time. There was another time that it said uvechein, and that uvechein was uvechein yiskada shimcha. Now again, so if you look on page 332, we have a similar one. We have a similar uvechein that we say only in Chazar Sashatz. That talks about kedusha and the malchus of Hashem, but it's not exactly the same thing. Anyway, so let's just go with what the Ramchal's nusach is. Va'inyan da. So what is this idea that we start out by proclaiming Hashem's holiness, proclaiming Hashem's kedusha? Okay, so he's going to explain to us in general a picture of the world. How does the world work? And explain to us then how this relates to Rosh Hashana. In the world, you have a concept of good and evil. There's a concept going back that Hashem created the world lacking on purpose, like we've discussed many times in the past, right? In order to fulfill the purpose of creation, for it to give people bechira. So there exists a concept of evil that is, of course, under Hashem's shlita, under Hashem's control. But there exists in the world the concept of good, the concept of evil, the concept of light and darkness, the concept, the all different metaphors that are used to talk about these 2 sides. And one of those metaphors, when we're talking about people, so we use the concept of Yisrael va'amim, the good and the bad. So I just want to make one thing point about this clear. This is interesting. I spoke with a very big Rav about this recently, and I don't know if everybody would agree to this, but certainly rings true to me, and this is certainly the way that he saw it. Yisrael v'umos ha'olam. When we talk about Yisrael va'amim, it doesn't mean Jew, non-Jew. It doesn't mean, strictly in that way. It means somebody who is plugged into the Mizgeret of Kedusha, somebody who is plugged into the system, and somebody who is not plugged into the system, somebody who is working against the system. You can have among Jewish people and non-Jewish people, both types. That's what he's referring to here. So he says, and then when it comes into the world, how does this concept, this abstract concept of good and evil, of light and dark, how does that express itself in the world? It expresses itself in the situation, in the state of Klal Yisrael and the Umos Ha'olam. V'hinei tikkun ha'olam. And he talks about this concept a lot now. We're going to be referring to these words. Tikkun ha'olam, fixing up the world, rectifying of the world. V'hinei tikkun ha'olam. So what is tikkun ha'olam? What is the world in its fixed up state, in its everything in its proper place? Hu sheyeh tov sholet v'hara nichbeh. That you have the good and evil. It's not that the evil should be obliterated and destroyed. It's not that it's that everybody should know its place. It's that the good should be in its place, and the evil should be subject to the good. The evil should be said like we have in the bracha of Yaakov and Esav, la'om yamot. That when there's a state at which it's supposed to be that way, with kedusha on top and tumah on the bottom, not with tumah destroyed completely, with tumah in its appropriate place. And then we'll see in a second the Ramchal is going to continue that way when it's in that situation. So then it's good for the tumah also. The tumah is getting what it needs as well. And then how does that express itself here in the world? Yisrael sholtim v'umas ha'olam mishtabdim tachteim. That Klal Yisrael, in the times of the Beis Hamikdash, in the times of David HaMelech, that Klal Yisrael was recognized as the leading nation, as the ruling nation, and the other nations recognized their place. That is the metaphor for when things are sorted out, when things are the way they're supposed to be, when Kedusha is ruling, when Kedusha is in charge, and Tumah, klipa, chitzonius, whatever you want to call it, externality, the Yitzhahara, all whatever negative aspect you want to call it, anything that's not plugged into Kedusha is subjugated to the Kedusha, so that everything is in its appropriate place and everything is going well, and that's called Tikkun Olam. That's called Tikkun Olam. If that is happening, then the world is functioning the way it's supposed to be. So this situation is good for everybody. In other words, it's not an idea. Sometimes, some people may think, when we find in our tefillos sometimes, like, that we daven that we should rule over the world, that we should, dominate over the world. And we see these words in the tefillah in Rosh Hashana. So Ramchal is explaining it's not an idea that yes, we're looking to be victorious and we're looking for world domination like the protocols of the elders of Zion or whatever. Chas v'shalom. That's not the idea. The idea, and we can't dominate. We can't rule, as we see what's going on here. If it's not the Ratzon Hashem, for us to be in that state. The idea is that when the heavenly orders are in place, when things are the right way, in Shemayim, the way they're supposed to be, which we'll see what brings that about in a minute. So then that manifests itself here in the world with Klal Yisrael assuming the role that they're supposed to play for bringing out the Kedusha in the world, and the Umos Ha'olam playing the role that they're supposed to play of supporting Klal Yisrael. The Torah tells us where Mamleches Kohanim v'Goy Kadosh. What's a Kohen? A Kohen is not the only one that exists, and everyone else doesn't exist and has no role. No, the Kohen has a very important role. The Kohen has the role of the priest, the role of godliness, of bringing God into the world, and everybody else's role is to support the Kohen to do what they can. But through doing that, they get the kedusha of the Kohen. They get the brachos of the kahuna. They give meiser to the Kohen. That's the way it works in all different systems. And when it's working right, when the system is working appropriately. And again, it's all different metaphors, different ways of saying the same thing, of kedusha on top and subject to kedusha underneath. And yes, next to a kohen, we are tameh, we are klipa. If we would try to do avodah in the Beis Hamikdash, we would die. Right? In many different ma'arachot, in many different systems, they have the same idea. I'm just giving different metaphors for the same thing, but that's what we're about. So when we're talking about tikkun olam, we're talking about everything set up right, everything in its right place, everything in its appropriate situation. And if that's the case, then it's hine tov lakol. It's good for everybody. Ki hine hakadusha mi'ira b'Yisrael mizchakezet bom mizchazekes bom. Kedusha is shining on Klal Yisrael, and we're holding on to it. Where it's in the appropriate. We're the appropriate receptacle to receive that kedusha. Uvios umos ha'olam mishtabdim tachtom, and because the klipa, because the tumah is subjugating itself to Klal Yisrael, niskanim al yadam, so they also get their tikkun. They are also now, because they're in their appropriate place. We'll see in a second what happens when they try to get it directly, when they try to suppress Klal Yisrael and try to tap in on their own. Yeah. But in this situation, when everything is working out well, v'nimshach lehem meshech min kedusha hi, and they get kedusha, they get a certain amount of that kedusha. Right? And again, so our view of the world mitukan, our view of the world in its state of tikkun, is a world of everybody serving Hashem, everybody knowing their place, everybody within Klal Yisrael knowing their place, the Melech of Klal Yisrael, ruling from his place, and the Sanhedrin doing their job, and the Kohanim doing their jobs, and the Leviim doing their jobs, and we doing our jobs. Right? Everybody knowing their place in the Marechet, in the system of Avodas Hashem, and all the other nations of the world also knowing their place in this system of serving Hashem. When that's happening, when that system is set up, that, like again, this took place briefly during the time of Bayis Rishon. So then you have the Beis Hamikdash, and you have the Shefa coming down, like we've discussed in the past. It comes down to the Beis Hamikdash and to Yerushalayim and Teretz Yisrael, and it spreads out to the rest of the world. And everybody benefits from this situation. When the system is working, and we're doing our job at the top, and everybody's doing their job in the middle and at the bottom, so then everything goes great. Okay, everybody gets holiness. Everybody is in a state of tikkun. Ach, im umos ha'olam mispartzim mitachas yidei Yisrael v'sholtim v'Yisrael nichnaim. But if the situation is not that way, if the forces of evil, if the forces of tumah are rising up, you have evil forces in the world that look to suppress kedusha, look to suppress holiness, and they I mean, again, when you say they, this is not a conscious decision that's made by an individual member of ISIS. You could talk about this many different ways. I don't want to get into it now, but the Sar of that Ummah says, whatever the spiritual entity that represents them, or if you look in their hashkafa, you'll see somewhere that this expresses itself. But the idea is that they say, no, we want to do it our way. We're not interested in getting our kedusha, in getting our shefa, and getting what we need, so to speak, in a spiritual way from the world, from the universe. We're not interested in getting that being subject to another nation. We want to do that ourselves. So when that happens, and again, it could be that could only happen if we're not doing our job properly. If we're doing our job right, and we are the appropriate receptacles for all the kedusha coming into the world, so then everybody should be satisfied. Nobody should feel like they're lacking anything, right? This is my own thought. Ramchal doesn't say this. Ramchal says that if the forces of Tumah rise up, I'm saying maybe they only rise up when we bring it about by not doing what we need to do. You know what I mean? So everybody loses from this situation. Klal Yisrael loses, because we're now in a lowly place, and the kedusha is not really held anywhere. We're not in a state of kedusha. We're not bringing in the kedusha the same way. We don't have the Beis Hamikdash. We don't have the karbanos, or even in terms of galus, in terms of being in a higher or lower state, we don't have the same dedication, etc. Because Eretz Yisrael is not in its state of tikkun, it's not in its fixed up place. And everybody loses from this. The goyim also lose. Everybody loses from this. Now they're not getting anything at all. They may think they're getting something by having some sort of a dominion here in this world, but they're really, in so doing, they're cutting themselves off from the real shefa that they're supposed to be getting. And then just look at all the enemies of Klal Yisrael, all the generations, and we'll see and continue to see Mitzvah Hashem what'll be with them. Okay, so that's what happens. Okay. Now, what causes or doesn't cause the situation to be in order? In other words, we just described the state of order and a state of disorder. Order is when kedusha is on top, when the goodness is reigning, when evil is subject, and the kedusha comes down, and everybody gets it, right? So what brings about the difference between these two statuses? It has to do with only the revelation of Hashem's Shechina, of Hashem's presence in this world, or its hiddenness. Right? Like we read in the Tochacha, Hashem hides himself, that's when bad things happen. So the revelation of Hashem or his hiddenness. If the Shechina is begilui, if everything is shining the way it's supposed to shine, that everything is set up appropriately, that's good. That's when things are the way they're supposed to be. And if not. If the Shechina withdraws itself, so then again, I don't know which is the cause and which is the effect. I mean, we'll see as he continues. When the Shechina is withdrawn, so then that causes these uprisings of the Tumah and kilkulim of the Kedusha. So very nice. He's saying a very nice picture, a very broad, abstract picture of the world and what the struggle of the world is of good against evil, and for us to try to be the best receptacles for holiness that we can be, and to try to do our jobs as best we can, that Kedusha should reign. But what does this have to do specifically with Rosh Hashana and with our Tefillos? Okay. V'ulam biyom Rosh Hashana ha'adon baruch hu omed kavayachol bebechinas melech al olamo. On Rosh Hashanah, Hashem comes down to the world, so to speak, as a king. Now again, it's a difficult concept to get into, and you could spend a whole lot of time just on this, but obviously Hashem is here, He's always everywhere. So what does this mean? It means that there's certain times of the year based on spiritual cheshbonos, based on our history, based on all sorts of things. There's certain times of the year that certain elements, certain midos of Hashem express themselves in the world more than others. Right? During Pesach is the mid of Chesed, that Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim, even though we didn't deserve it. So there's a certain expression of Chesed during the time of Pesach that we have. So when I go on, I don't want to take up too much time on side points. So when it comes to Rosh Hashanah, it's the same idea. So what's the expression? What's the midah that expresses itself on Rosh Hashanah? Is the malchus of Hashem, the kingdom of Hashem, the kingship of Hashem. That not Hashem's chesed, not His benevolence, not the fact that we accept Hashem as our king and as our ruler. This is the day that He stands with this midah of the malchus on the world. Again, because this is the day that the world was created, the day Adam, that once Adam was created, then Hashem could be called a melech. They say in Adon Olam, Azai melech shmo nikra. Only after He created, then He could be called a melech. Right? So today, Rosh Hashana is the day that the world, that's a simple understanding. So therefore, what are we doing? We're saying, Hashem, come fix up the world completely. When you come and reveal yourself over here in the world, like we just said, Gilui Malchuso, when Hashem's Malchus is revealed in the world, so everything is good, everything is taken care of, the Kedusha reigns, and Tumah is suppressed, and everything is the way it's supposed to be, and everybody gains, and everybody's happy. So Hashem, on this day that you express your midah, to some degree in this world, we want to bring it down legamre. Shegalei machuso legamre ba'olam. No, make it real, make it stay, make it complete. V'yisukan ha'olam al yedei zeh. This is the point. We're davening for the world on Rosh Hashanah. We'll see where does it come in, my tshuva or my parnasa. We'll see where it comes in. But we're davening, the main thing is for the world. V'yasukan ha'olam al yedei zeh. The world should be fixed up. This idea, this concept, that we are davening for the world to be mitukan, and what that means with all these various different metaphors we're going to see as it expresses itself in the tefillah, but we're davening on Rosh Hashanah for the world to be fixed. Hashem, this is the way you created the world, this is the day you created the world, this is the day that you come down and you stand and reveal yourself, express yourself as the melech of the world. All of our tefillos revolve around the malchus of Hashem. Hashem, all of our focus and all of our davening is make it complete, make it real, fix up the world. So that's what I was speaking recently. I don't have time to go into stories now and different things, but the Rav Yosef Spinner, who is a person who brought a lot of the writings of the Ramchal to print. He found them in museums and various things. And so I was speaking about it with him this week, and he told me that if he were to put out a machzor for Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur of the Ramchal, it would be called Tikkun HaOlam. Tikkun Olam. The whole machzor, the whole tefillah, everything that we're davening for is different aspects of the world reaching its perfection. And he said that means that on Rosh Hashanah we'll see our needs are tangential to all of this. We'll see they play an important role. They certainly do, and certainly to ourselves they do. But in the picture of the tefillah, okay, so let's see. V'hinei b'tchila nemar yiskadesh shimcha. Okay, so again, we don't have this nusach, so I'm going to skip this one. But he said again, his idea was like this, that there were 4 uvachains. The first uvachain is talking about this general idea that of Hashem's malchus, of Hashem's kedusha, reveals itself in the world. That creates the system the way that it's supposed to, the way that it's supposed to be. And that's what we're davening for, and that's the main thrust. And we're going to break it now down into the details. But that's what we're davening for. We're davening that there shouldn't be, Ebola in Liberia. People shouldn't be dying, and in Ukraine, and Russia, and in Iraq, and all over the world. There are tsaras all over the world. It's only because things are messed up. It's only because things are not the way that they're supposed to be. That they're not in a state of tikkun. They're not in a state of that the channels are not operating properly, and this is what we're davening for in the world. Every tzara that we know of in the world, every tragedy that certainly on these mass scales that are going on in the world, this is what we're davening should be fixed up. Because if the world is running properly, and we're playing our role properly in the world running properly, so then these things wouldn't be happening. Everything would be fine. So every one of these things should be a slap in the face to us that the world is not mitukan, it's not fixed up, and that's what we're davening for. This is what we're focusing on for. Hashem, fix the world, fix the world. So from this idea, all the various tikkunim are going to unfold. Okay, now I want to tell you something, because this to me was a very very big surprise. But this next paragraph, which I tried every year to daven with a lot of kavanah, Hashem, place your fear and your awe on your creations, etc., etc. They should all make one, one group of, to lasos retzoncha b'leiv shalem, to do your will with a. So Ramchal, in his machzor, Rav Spinner told me he saw the actual machzor. In Ramchal's machzor, over this heading, it said Tikkun HaOlam. This is the Tikkun for the world. Tikkun HaUmos. This is a reference, this paragraph, not to Klal Yisrael. The next paragraph, Uvechein Tein Kavod Hashem La'amecha Tehila L'Re'echa, that's talking about Klal Yisrael. But he's going to go now and show us, Ramchal, that this whole paragraph is not referring to Klal Yisrael. It's not referring to us. On the contrary, this is referring to the tikkun of the klipa, the tikkun of the tumah, the tikkun of the, again, in the metaphor, the umos ha'olam. So that's what he says here. V'omnam mizeh yem shechut v'harishon shetikane sirasu yisbarach believe kol berua v'yishtabdu lo, that all of Hashem's creations Hashem's fear will enter into their heart, and they'll appreciate what He is really about, and they will subjugate themselves to Him. V'davar kafel b'tachtonim u'va'alyonim, and he says this is not only talking about here the physical world. It's talking about also in the Elyonim. There's, like I referenced before a little bit, there's like a sar. Every nation has its, heavenly, entity or whatever it is that runs it and that moves it. So he's also going to be affected by this. The nations down here, the physical people, and their spiritual entity in heaven. Shiakiru kulam ha'emes, that everyone will recognize this truth. V'yishtabdu l'kedushas malchusi yisbarach, and subjugate themselves to Hashem's holiness. V'zeu v'yarucha kol masim. So that's what it says, and they'll fear you all of your deeds. Osam shalamata ba'olam hashafel. That's talking about the physical, the people, right? The nations of the world. V'yishtachvu l'fanecha kol beruim, and all of your creations. Osam shalamala. That's referring to the ones in heaven, meaning like the malachim, the angels of these nations, etc., will accept their proper place also. V'tzarech sheteda shehine ha'adon baruch hu echad, ve'ein ha'arasu mischakezes ela mischazekes el b'mashe misachetz. Now he says a very interesting thing, which again, I would go into this a lot, but I don't want to now. There's no time for it. But he says basically ideas like this. Our job is to transmit godliness into the world, right? That's our job. So what gives us that ability to do that? What gives us the ability to do so? So my neshama, I have a special neshama that allows it. So he's explaining here a very interesting metaphor, again, like an interesting idea. So let's just talk about radio frequency, right? So, if I have a radio receiver, and I have to tune it to a particular frequency in order to hear what's happening. In other words, somebody is transmitting from over there at a particular frequency, at a particular channel. So if I'm holding at all different other channels, no matter how many channels I have, if I don't have his channel, I'm not going to hear what's transmitting. But if I'm tuned into the same channel, so then I'm going to be able to pick up that transmission from him. So he explains a little bit, I don't know if it's a proper metaphor or not, but he explains like this, that there's an element of Klal Yisrael that is unique in the world. And that element is, so to speak, the frequency that we vibrate at, the frequency that we resonate at. And Hashem is on that same frequency. And what's that? That's Achdus. That's unity. Because Hashem is Yachid. Hashem is an Echad. Hashem is one, and in every sense of the word, unique and completely one. And Klal Yisrael, we know we are Ki'ish Echad B'Lev Echad. We are one nation. We are, no matter where we are in the world, no matter who we are in the world, no matter what level people are holding on, among Klal Yisrael, everybody is one, and anybody who's really a part of Klal Yisrael knows that and recognizes that and lives their life like that. So there's a certain unique element, a certain unique aspect of Klal Yisrael in the world, right? Seb and Shivim Zevim, right? The one sheep among the 70 wolves, etc. All the different metaphors, but we're the one. So this is what he says over here. He says, since Hashem is one, also Hashem only resonates on that frequency, so only somebody who's holding on that frequency can pick it up. So even though we are multiple people, we're still called Goy Echad, one nation. And therefore we are the ones that pick up the frequency of Hashem. However, right, but all the other nations of the world, so even if they have achdus among them, but there's no achdus among the nations. In other words, there's no other sense of unity. There's no other sense of achdus. So how could they get any kedusha? How could any kedusha reach them? How could they tune into if they have all different channels, but they don't have the channel of achdus. They don't have the channel of yichud. So how do they tune into this channel? Yeah, so it's a problem. They can't receive their tikkun that way. So this is what he says. No, so how can they tune into the tikkun? So again, when things are the way they're supposed to be, when the setup is appropriate and kedusha is on top, and the tumah, the klipa is underneath, and again, the metaphor being Klal Yisrael and the ummos ha'olam are mishtabeh to them, so now through their plugging into Klal Yisrael, they can now also pick up the frequency of unity. So So now, even though they themselves are a riboy, there are many, many more nations, many, 70 different nations, let's say, root nations. No, but through their connection to Klal Yisrael, they can achieve an achdus. And they can also now receive some of the light from the unity of Hashem. And this is as we continue in the nusach of the Tefillah, this is what we say, that they should